let's queer up courts. Federal Appeals Court upholds ruling in Hamburger Mary's drag show case. In a case filed by Hamburger Mary's in Orlando, a federal appeals court backed the ruling that temporarily blocked a statewide new law that would prevent children from attending drag shows. A panel of the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, in a 2-1 decision, rejected request by Governor Ron DeSantis administrations to modify a preliminary injunction issued by U.S. District Judge Gregory Presnell. The request, if granted, would have allowed the law to be enforced against almost all venues in the state while an underlying appeal of Presnell's ruling played out. Presnell issued the injunction in a lawsuit filed by the Orlando restaurant, but also applied the injunction to venues statewide. In this majority opinion, Judges Adalberto Jordan and Robin Rosenbaum said Presnell ruled that the law was likely overbroad and unconstitutional under the First Amendment and pointed to legal precedents, saying that there are cases where a law is overbroad in violation of the First Amendment. And the justice system have affirmed injunctions preventing enforcement of a law against nonparties as well as parties. Hamburger Mary's, which said it has run family-friendly drag shows for 15 years, filed a lawsuit in May, and Presnell ruled on June 23rd that the law is not sufficiently tailored to meet First Amendment standards. Now, as a former drag queen at Hamburger Mary's in Chicago, surprise, surprise. Let me tell you, drag queens have a saying this too. We don't always want to perform for children as well, and we put that into our thoughts. If I'm going to be doing daytime drag, I often want to make sure I look presentable, and I leave the good stuff for the burlesque stuff for the burlesque shows that happens at like 11 o'clock at night. We know how to be family friendly, and the Mary's Attic and Hamburger Mary's were very clear on what we were able to put out and up front. If you gave us enough room to actually be creative, we are going to honor that space. So sometimes it just feels irrelevant. Let us do what we want to perform. And believe it or not, you might be happier with the results.
Right? Right.
Yeah.
Well, this had to be, obviously, I had a feeling, and me and Al have talked about this extensively, I had a feeling that this would be banned because then other things wouldn't be allowed to follow suit, right? Like, you know, like a cabaret or Twin Peaks or Hooters or Cirque du Soleil, where people are performing and they're performing in very little clothing. So I had a feeling that this might happen, and God, I don't know, but like part of me still says, shouldn't it just be up to the parent if they want to take the kid to the drag show or not? I understand what you're saying, Jacob. For the most part, lots of us gays don't even like kids. Okay, I know I'm only speaking for myself, okay? I enjoy to give you your kids back, okay? But, with words like groomers and pedophiles and stuff like that, we don't want to be around kids. Many of us don't want to be around kids. So this was, I'm glad that they weren't able to enforce this, and that's it.
This is a really great ruling. I mean, one of the things I think that it highlights, you're looking at a panel that voted 2-1. Those two judges were appointed by Barack Obama. Right, here's the legacy of Barack Obama. And when people ask me and say to me that they are not going to be voting and why should they, I say to them because it impacts us beyond your eyes can see. Right, so here we are, we're looking at Biden, who's coming up for re-election, and his slogan is, let's get the job done. We need to undo all of the appointments, all of the legacy that was left behind by the trash of 45, the trash of Trump, and we need to make sure that Biden is in office long enough to appoint more judges to be able to withstand these types of trials, to be able to reverse the garbage that was created by the last administration. Yeah. And so there aren't a lot of judges out there, right? Either appointed by Barack or Clinton or anybody who's been good to the LGBTQ community. So there's a lot to clean up.
Yeah.
Just to piggyback really quick on, I have worked for Hamburger Mary's, both the West Hollywood location and now the Fort Lauderdale location for the last 7 years. They've made it, I'm a DJ there, they've made it extremely clear in the years that I've worked there that it's not a place for kids. When it's a bar that's serving a certain amount of alcohol after a certain time, kids aren't even allowed anyway. So if it is a daytime drag show, then of course they're going to let kids in because the space serves as a restaurant as well, right? They can't kick them out for that. But I have seen with my own eyes drag performers cater to that audience. They read the room. They're not going to perform a rated MA performance when there's a 4-year-old in front of them. It's about reading the room. It's case sensitive, I think.
And one final thought that I think is important in the decision. First, the decision's incredibly valuable and incredibly important for our community. Our drag community has been under attack, really, for the last year. We went into Stonewall Pride of going no drag and overabundance of caution and et cetera and so on. Port St. Lucie canceled their Pride Parade because of the drag issue, et cetera. So this is big news. Some people said, well, this is not a clear-cut victory. And from my seat, it was a clear-cut victory.
Disagree with that.
It's a 2-to-1 decision where 2 of the judges in majority said, not only do we affirm the federal judge saying this is overly broad and likely, and they were very careful, just like the federal judge, likely a violation of the First Amendment.
Right.
What the federal judge and now the appeals court is setting up is, if you don't believe it is, continue to appeal it. Get it to the Supreme Court, and let's hear what the Supreme Court says about the First Amendment. I have confidence that this, even with the court that we have in the 6-3 conservative leaning, they're going to decide that this is a violation of the First Amendment, of free speech. 2 of the judges said that it's likely that, and this applies to any platform that, and outside of drag, but it applies to organizations in Florida, not just Hamburger Mary's. The dissent vote did not disagree with the judges in terms of this is overly broad and a violation, likely a violation of the First Amendment, only that it should only apply to Hamburger Mary's. Now, the reason I think that that's important is they all 3 are saying the same thing. No, you're going to lose at this because this is overbroad and a violation of the First Amendment. We just disagree of where we're applying this decision to in a technicality. Okay, so 2-1, it applies everywhere. So Hamburger Mary's in Fort Lauderdale is protected by this appeal decision. Right. But all 3 judges said this is overbroad and a violation of the First Amendment. That's where this is likely going, I think.